Okay, so oh. Anyhow, let's not take Louie for a bike ride. Normally we go down there and then we turn down this road over there. So we went down there, but the horse flies are too bad, so we came back. So you can see my bike trails here. And there's we're going up and then we're coming back. And I happen to notice this thing here on the way up. Where is it? Right there. That's what I want to talk about. But this was on my bike and it fell off. I'm keeping my money in there, so I'm going to talk about that when I'm done. So this thing here, it represents a coil, that coiling. A coil in the engine. So this would be like a coil made out of neodymium, like a magnet, a really strong magnet. I had it in my mind to make it out of copper, but seeing this here means make it out of neodymium because it's metallic, right? So that's a strong magnet. So we'd want to coil it. So when you see my diagram, you'll see how I coiled it like that down into a funnel, like a sharp funnel like that. Or I came up with the concept. So this here is the concept to make it out of neodymium because that's the most powerful magnet on the planet. Now, this here has my money in it, okay? So, look in here. There's my money. That's what I brought because I want to go to the store after. So there's $12 in there. Okay. Now there's 2 loonies. Okay. About so these being made out of or kind of a reflecting like this means that I have theorized that they're saying to put like make the compression chamber out of gold, like that. Okay, so the compression chamber, it has gold ends with those holes in it, and then it has a neodymium coil like that. So this is the sleeve I talked about previous. So the neodymium coil goes like this. So you're creating a magnetic field, and then you'd have a ring here, a ring here, and a ring here. But the rings are staggered, so these has like a certain degree on it. I talk about that in my other drawings. Where I'm going to show you an album from Toto. Toto has an album of 4 rings on it, and those rings are kind of, you'll see one at the top is like this, and then the one's like this, and then one's like this, and then one's like this. So the Toto album, along with this little this degree here, see how this light degree, means that the rings, the nuclear fusion reactor, have to be staggered. Like they can't be perpendicular like this, because you're trying to push you're trying to use the magnetic field to push them through there. The magnetic field of the rings, creating a black hole ring of energy, really isn't creating a force to push it through like that. So you need to offset them a slight degree. I have it set at maybe 7 degrees, but I'll take this home with me and put it in the bag, because this is probably the right degree we want, which is probably just offset them about that much, not very much, like that. So that ring would be like that, just offset a little bit. So when the particles travel through there, science, oops, when they travel through, because it's all set, and this is the sleeve. it's going to be kind of forced through because it's not straight. Because it's not straight, there's a sort of that's being pushed on this one side here first, so the particles being pushed here, and then because it's offset, they're being pushed on this side first, like that. They're basically being pushed here first, right? Stop knocking over like that. They're being pushed here, and then this other thing here kind of pushes them too. So by staggering it like that, and then maybe the next one like this, it goes through one way like this, and then it gets pushed the other way like that, and then you stagger the other ring like this, and then it gets pushed through again, and then the fourth ring is like that. So you'd have 4 rings that are offset, staggered like that, inside a gold sleeve with a neodymium coil, like coiled around into a funnel. So you want it coiled into a funnel like this. You want it you want your tube like that, but you want the coil going like this, the neodymium coil, but you also want it compressing it. So the neodymium coil has to be like that, okay? And then you'd have your coil like this. Oops. So this is the funnel wrapped in a neodymium coil to increase the magnetism, and then when you have your rings staggered like this, it creates the particles are going to go like that, like a wave, and then they're going to get trapped over here at the end because of the gold and the holes. And this has to be gold because I have no idea. There's some sort of scientific reason. I'm assuming because the molecules inside are grandma and grandpa. Like inside of gold, the molecules, that's grandma and grandpa. So by breaking the sleeve of the gold, you're basically working with the good side of creation, not the bad side of creation. So that there, right, represents grandma and grandpa, because at the walls of the universe, the molecules at the walls of the universe, that's grandma and grandpa. So they're saying make the sleeve of the gold so they can help with the engines. So now, if we look at this here, this Foodland bag, if we look at this, let's see if my leg out of the way, we have the word LAN. That represents like some sort of LAN is basically grandmother. That's grandmother. I got bit up by horseflies everywhere. Really easy. So this represents LAN or internet. So internet basically means how do I put this? It's either a wave, which means the wave function of those offset staggered things like that is creating a wave, and then it gets trapped at the end. That's one meaning. Or it can mean using some kind of a wave. So if this here, see those 2 O's there? Oh, what happened to my mind right there? There's one there. There's the other one. So if these represent, okay, the sleeve, you want some kind of a wave going through the land. The most logical one would be a radio wave, but those are too small for particles. So you want some kind of a wave. The next one is you could probably get away with ultraviolet waves. I don't know what that would do. That's grandfather. X-rays, if you're to incorporate X-rays, and then gamma rays. So if you turn the reactor up to gamma rays here, these reactors, if you turn it up to gamma rays, what it's going to do is it's going to compress. It's going to compress, if you like the reactor, how a nuclear fusion reactor, you turn it right up to 7, and those rings are spinning at such a high rate that it creates gamma rays. Like it compresses on the star, and because they're spinning so fast, you're able to shoot gamma rays out of the microstar of the reactor. So if you turn it up to 7, if you turn the 4 rings up to 7, so if you got 4 rings here offset staggered, if you got 1 ring here like this, 1 ring like this, 1 ring like this, 1 ring like this, and they're all spinning at 7, the plasma that's going through there, that's getting compressed, the microstar, is going to shoot out gamma rays out the back of that engine. So it's going to produce gamma rays. It's going to come out the back of the engine as gamma rays like this. So it'll produce gamma rays out the back of the engine, and then because you're using hydrogen and oxygen, oxygen is about, I think it's 8 air neutrons and 8 water neutrons, while the hydrogen is 1 earth proton and 1 fire electron. So by deconstructing the water, you're pulling out all 4 elements. You're separating them. So the hydrogen is fire and earth, and the oxygen you get from the water is air and water, because that's what oxygen is. So you also have the 8, I think it's 8 fire electrons rotating around the oxygen atom. So by using that in this fashion, by deconstructing into hydrogen and oxygen and creating a primitive flame at the beginning of the nuclear fusion reactor, you're playing with all 4 particles. So when you are when we want to deatomize a planet, we use that white star, which is sending off a bunch of particles, because that's what hydrogen is. When we're using hydrogen, it's basically just shooting off the it's shooting off electrons and protons. But in this particular case, because we're using water, we're working with all 4 elements, not just protons and electrons. Like when the star sucks in hydrogen, it's only working with 2 elements. It's working with hydrogen, which is fire electron and earth proton. So those, right now, the star, it's shooting off fire electrons and earth protons because it's sucking in hydrogen. It's not sucking in oxygen because there's no oxygen in space. There's no oxygen for that star. So this reactor, when you add oxygen, you're working with 4 elements. You're adding in the air neutron and the water neutron. Those 4 elements increase the thrust, because the gamma rays, when you deatomize a planet, it's like a gun. It shoots those proton particles out like a gun. So in this case here, you're working with all 4 elements. You got all 4 particles bouncing around or being compressed in that magnet into a plasma star, which is being captured in the where'd that go? It's being captured over here in the sleeve like this, and then that plasma is being forced through those 25 holes. Well, at the same time, you got fire electrons, earth protons, air neutrons, and water neutrons all being pushed through. Those are ions, right? You want to call those ions? They're not ions in my world. They're elemental particles being pushed through the engine. So that's the revised edition. I was going to talk about that at home and make a drawing to show you, but coming for this bike ride, I'm just doing it here on the road. I'm making this up on the road for you scientists to see the revised nuclear fusion reactor engine and how things are not always as they seem. You have to pay attention to your surroundings, and that's how I come up with these scientific concepts of an ion drive engine. So again, you're taking the water, breaking it down into hydrogen and oxygen. And then you're burning it like a welder's torch to create a flame, which is superheated with lasers to create plasma. And then the plasma is turned into ions, or an ion engine. So flame, plasma, whoop, there's my money. Flame, plasma, ions compressed into using a nuclear fusion reactor. So the rings, instead of creating a sphere of energy, is offset like this, almost like a W fashion. So the four particles are pushed through. The neodymium magnet compresses it even more. And when these rings are spinning, it's being forced through, but it's also compressing it at the same time. Forcing it through there, where it gets funneled down into the funnel with the 25 holes made out of gold. So those particles are being funneled using Grandma and Grandpa's life force from the gold, and it's pushed through the back using gamma rays like that to push that engine through even faster. You get more thrust using the gamma rays. It's dangerous though, because you have to be careful. If you use this engine, let's say if it was above us and we were using that engine to thrust off of Earth, all four of those particles would come shooting down on the Earth, and anybody standing underneath them would be blasted apart. So it's a very dangerous engine. It's something that you only want to use in the depths of space, where there's really not anybody around to be blasted with those particles. But that's the revised concept science. I know it's scientifically sound. Now it's up to you to science the hell out of it and prove that it works. I'm going to go home, and then I'm going to make a quick drawing of the engine so you can see it better instead of on the dirt here. So again, everything that I'm telling you is just coming about by using my imagination and what little bit of science knowledge that I have. Dude, get over here! What little bit of science knowledge that I have. And taking this bag with the loonies and the toonies, and then coming for a ride and seeing this allowed me to add down this additional scientific concept for you to grasp and understand, so that you can science the hell out of it and say, you know what? His scientific engine is sound. Everything that he said has been proven through science. Here's the mathematical equation. Now, you're coming here with your 8-mile wide UFOs. You don't have this technology on your engine. We witnessed the video of how he came up with the concept right there on the fly. So you can't say that he came up with this engine on some distant planet that came here as Satan and stole the formula from you, and now has these engines on some spaceships in a distant universe. Because if he's Satan and he's in control of creation, that means those particles or those electromagnetic waves are evil. Yet you're coming here and your spaceship's claiming to be good, which means you shouldn't be able to fly on his spaceships. You shouldn't be able to fly here on his evil electromagnetic radiation waves. Which means one of two things. The reason you don't have those engines is because you don't have access to the technology, because you're bad. And those waves that you're riding here on are bad. And he's the good guy. And once we get his spaceships in here, and we look at those things, and we compare them with our scientific notes, that's going to prove that you're nothing more than a fucking liar.